Yo, what up, a-holes? Thank you for tuning into the Holistic A-Hole podcast. My name is Erik Levi, and I'm the Holistic A-Hole, the mommy blogger with balls, the inconvenient truth of health. Thanks so much for turning your transistor dial to the Holistic A-Hole podcast, where today we got an exciting episode where we're going to talk about vegans and veganism and all of my issues with the whole idea of veganism and vegans and just, God, it's so, man, it gets very, I'm not emotional about it, but I gotta say, I got some real raw, honest thoughts about this whole kind of quote unquote movement that is really gaining steam and almost kind of becoming mainstream, really, which is pretty crazy to see happen. So we're gonna get into all that, and I'm excited for you to hear my thoughts. And I'm gonna be honest, some of you might get super triggered by this, which will be hilarious. But I can't not start the podcast off with a few pluggy plugs here. First of all, if you're new to the podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's super easy to do. It's just the big button right there in your phone and your podcast player. You know how technology works, dude, or chick, or person, or whatever you are, non-binary, gender pronoun thing. Just hit the subscribe button so you come back every time the podcast gets released. See it pop up in your feed. And then take a hot second, go on over to iTunes, leave a quick review on the old iTunes or Apple Podcasts for me. You know, some of you guys are listening to this every single week and you haven't left a review. Obviously, you love it. There's something that brings you back every single time. So just take a second out of your day and go on over to that and leave a review. It's super easy to do, and I would certainly appreciate it, especially because it's Hanukkah right now. Come on, man. And then go follow me on all the social mediums. Instagram is really the one I'm dominating on at the moment. You know, I got the pictures every day, got the videos going up every day, got my stories, hashtags, all that fun stuff. And then join the Holistic A-Holes Facebook group. This is a little community I'm trying to start, to interact with all kinds of health stuff in there. And, of course, being Holistic A-Holes, this is what we do. We just push the health stuff on each other. This is what we want to do, right? And then follow me on Twitter, at Holistic A-Hole. And I think if you do all that, you will, we were going to be so tight. We're going to get each other Christmas gifts. It's going to be awesome. So here's the deal. If you're newer to the podcast, I don't talk about veganism a lot, because there's so much to talk about as far as like health goes. But I do like to talk about it every so often because it's interesting. And I was a vegan. In fact, the whole genesis of the Holistic A-Hole as a being on this planet was through the vegan diet. I went vegan. Probably officially went maybe I think 2016 or so, and then I made it to about 8 months ago, and then I quit veganism, and I quit the diet, and I did all that, and I'll be honest, I was not a perfect vegan, as far as the hard straight line, as far as the hard straight line of veganism goes. I was eating bone broth. There'd be a little cheese here and there, and I'm talking crumbles of cheese. We're not talking big cheese wheels or slices of cheese. I'm talking go out to dinner, Miss A-Hole gets a salad, it's got some crumbles of cheese on it. She's like, you want some cheese? She can see I'm looking at the cheese, you better believe I want that cheese. Give me that goddamn cheese, Miss A-Hole. And she'll toss a little cheese my way. The feta cheese. We live in a Greek neighborhood in New York City. You're not gonna hold me back from some just bomb ass Greek feta cheese. Get the F out of here. So I was not a perfect vegan, but I did my best, and I will be honest with you, I genuinely enjoyed it. I don't look back on my vegan days oh, what was I thinking? I know what I was thinking. I was loving it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, first of all, I enjoyed vegan food. It gets a bad rap, but it really taught me how to cook. It taught me how to really make vegetables delicious. It taught me how to make plants delicious, which, as far as being, a cook in the kitchen, there's nothing more important than knowing how to make food like that good. You want to eat as many vegetables as you can. You want them to taste delicious, Unless you're doing this crazy ass carnivore diet, you're going to have vegetables on your plate. You're going to have, plants on on your plate. So make them good. And that's what the vegan diet did. Even, I would dig into these, just crazy recipes I'd find online. And I mean, I'm making, me and Miss A-Hole, we're making, cashew cheesecake, and we're making, steaks out of portobello mushrooms, and, crab meat out of what the hell was that stuff? So I forget what exactly it was we were making the crab meat out of. But I mean, just, you just really got in there. I really got in there and learned, how to survive. And then, like, when you go out to restaurants, like, I live in New York again. And luckily here, there's a ton of vegan restaurants, right? This is I think where veganism was born. Maybe here, maybe it was California. But either way, it's, everything cool happens in New York, so you better believe there's vegan restaurants everywhere. And then I'll tell you what I really enjoyed about the vegan diet was when I'd go to a restaurant that wasn't vegan. It would just be like a regular ass restaurant, and then I look at the menu, and there'd be like one or two things I could get, and I'm like, boom, done. That's it. I don't got to look at the menu for 20 minutes trying to decide, do I want chicken or beef or pork or, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, the one thing that's vegan, boom. And then, or, if there wasn't something on the menu, if it was just completely hopeless, typically you can like talk to the waiter and be like, hey, can you have the cook just keep just animal products off the plate? And for the most part, they could do it. And I tried a lot of new foods, and it really expanded my palate. And, as a goddamn grown-up, some of you guys have been eating the same freaking thing since you were 5 years old, and you have all these health problems and blood sugar issues, and you're like, I don't get it. It's because you got to be an adult and grow up and eat new shit, That's a part about the world, expand your shit, right? And then, I started taking this, this nutritional therapy course, and almost about to be certified. I'm very excited about that. Being an official nutritional therapy practitioner, it's gonna be very cool. But I started learning about fat, and I started learning about animal fat and how important it is, and you could be like, see, holistic a-hole, you drank the Kool-Aid. And dude, that's what I did when I became a vegan. That's what we all do when you join whatever food movement you're gonna be part of. You're just drinking the Kool-Aid. If someone tells you like anything, any recommendation you get, that's all online blogs and videos are. That's all YouTube is. It's just pushing some kind of propaganda. And it takes some huge cojones to kind of like reevaluate your shit and be like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's time to change it up. Maybe all of these things that I was so certain about are just not correct. And to kind of look yourself in the mirror and then to start changing things, like it takes being an adult. And, what I see and what I see from a lot of vegans is that's exactly what's not happening, So as far as like the vegan diet goes, I love the vegan diet. In fact, there are instances where I could say it's absolutely necessary. I think a lot of people who go from not being a vegan to being a vegan definitely initially will experience some kind of health benefit. Like, you have to be like an Oreo cookie and, Cheeto vegan to be, junk food vegan is what they call them, to really fuck up the vegan diet. But most people, they go for the whole food plant-based vegan diet, which is good. But the problem is it is very nutritionally deficient, and it's missing a lot of things that the body needs, okay? And so this is where I started to kind of change my tune, all right? And maybe you're sitting there at home and, you're in the middle of, downing a big stalk of kale, and you're like, well, what's the thing it's missing, Eric? I'll tell you exactly what it's missing. It's missing animal fat. No, but all these vegans say that the animal fat gives you cancer and heart disease, and if I eat an egg, I'm gonna die. And I get that, but your body actually needs animal fat. It needs, and not fat from nuts, not fat from seeds, not this like dink and dank, fat from weird sources, not, downing fucking gallons of olive oil and avocado oil and walnut oil. Actual animal fat. It's the arachidonic acid, right? It's the, is it the L-carnitine or some amino acid that you can only get from animal fat. specifically the arachidonic acid, is what starts to trigger a lot of necessary functions, specifically pertaining to your digestion, okay? The only way that your gallbladder works correctly is with animal fat. The only way your pancreas works correctly is and releases pancreatic enzymes to break down the food that you're eating, is with animal fat, okay? Yeah, you can kind of give it a little bit of like non-animal fat and it is going to kind of work, but problem is after a while of doing this, you'll start to experience health problems. And ever since I stopped being a vegan, I've begun to notice so many people now are quitting the vegan movement. I don't know if like I caught on to a wave of some sort. I definitely wasn't an early adopter of the vegan diet, but I got in there fairly, like a couple years ago when people were just starting to talk about it. And I think a lot of people who got into it when I got into it are now leaving. And, some of them are doing like extreme stuff. Like there's this kid I follow on YouTube. His name's The Vegetable Police. And I definitely recommend checking him out. His videos are, first of all, I think he's hilarious. Very creative videos. But he was a hardcore, like raw vegan, and then he would do like these juice fasts, and he had a lot of great information. He has like a specific formulation for like growing your hair, which is just drinking like watermelon juice and all this stuff. Like this dude was deep. And then I kind of stopped watching him for a little bit, and then I check in a couple months ago, and he's a full-on carnivore now. Right? He's like living in Thailand and he's like a full-on carnivore. And, you see more and more of this, right? And I do take a step back and think there is something to be said about people who do extremes of these diets. Like there's the extreme raw vegan, are probably more likely to become the extreme carnivore or the extreme keto diet, when in fact, all these diets are it's just silly to be extreme. You don't need to, okay? To be extreme in any of these things, I think maybe like if you're putting together a diet protocol for a very specific reason, like if you are diabetic and you're like, I need a very hardcore specific protocol, then yeah, keto would probably be great, right? But it's not built to do long term. You can't build your whole life around it, right? Maybe if you are fighting cancer or something, a lot of doctors, a lot of smart people will recommend, a very strict vegan short-term diet. I think that's perfect. But in the end, you have to bring the animal back in. You got to bring bone broth. You got to bring in, B vitamins from red meat. That's the other thing, dude. Like fat from red meat. Red meat supplies you so many B vitamins. Fish gives you such great, B vitamins, right? And this is what people are missing. Things like B vitamins and DHA and EPA and these specific, fats and amino acids. Now, granted, you want to kind of be careful with the protein because the protein can get very quickly turn into fat. So this is why keto is so effective because it's low protein. But, it's like you also need like a decent amount of protein. You don't need a lot, but you need a decent amount every day because, your hormones are made from proteins, right? So many functions of your body work with protein. And specifically to get all the amino acids, you got to get it from animal. So the vegan diet itself is lacking in a lot of nutrition. And again, like you start looking around and all of these vegans begin, they're like, I was a vegan for 3 years and then I had to quit. I hear that story so much from people, right? I was doing the vegan diet for 6 months, felt great, and then I immediately felt terrible. And everyone's going to be different because everybody's body's different, right? This is a thing that vegans refuse to acknowledge, okay? Bio-individuality, epigenetics. This is how health is going to be looked at going forward, and it's what's going to save humanity, is understanding that everybody's body works differently. So just because the vegan diet works for, some doctor in Loma Linda, California, and they get, they're close to the ocean and everyone's like in a chill community and like we all like go to the beach and hold hands and, do bonfires on Friday nights and we have, legal weed. So we smoke some of that. And then like we talk about like shows and kale and we like go to some really good vegan restaurants that like like it has nice breezes and it's actual fresh air and we all just feel good and spiritual. You know, not everybody gets that, right? You live in a garbage city like New York, and there's just nothing but exhaust fumes going into your goddamn every orifice of your body all day. You need some robust nutrition, okay? People are living in polluted fucking places, right? People's family, lineages go back, fucking centuries that were just, eating nothing but meat, okay? So, yeah, but vegans are like, no, anybody can live off of, walnuts and sweet potatoes. Like, everybody can do that. And the fact is, you can't. And people think they can. I thought I could. And then people start dealing with weird stomach diseases. And I started getting a little of this. Like, my digestion was getting a little funky kind of towards the end. Like, and I refused to acknowledge it, though. Like, that's the Stockholm syndrome of the vegan diet, which is like, I was having some weird digestion going on. Some loosey-goosey stools, and I was like, no, man, it's the vegan diet. Like, it's totally fine. Like, it's just my body just kind of going through some transitions, and then I just got to wait for, like, the other side, and then it's all going to be good. And no, it doesn't, Vegan diet causes a lot of people IBS, probably causes a lot of people gallstones, because if you're not getting enough fat, the bile that gets sent from your liver into your gallbladder, it doesn't move. What's it called? Biliary stasis. When the bile just doesn't move out of your liver into your gallbladder. It's just like a blockage for bile in your gallbladder. And you need that motherfucker to flow, right? You need it to flow like a nice, like you fucking blew up a dam, and then the water just surges into the river. Is that how those things work? But you need it to flow, right? You need like a nice unimpeded path from the liver into the gallbladder. And it can only happen because the fat triggers the specific chemicals in your stomach to trigger the release of the bile, okay? It's a very complex process, but it can be very made easy if you have good sources of fat. Now, you can do this with something like coconut oil, I should say, okay? But you also need good doses of the animal fat as well. You don't need to overdo it, right? I'm not talking about like go and eat like 30 pieces of bacon a day or a week or whatever. I'm talking like you need like a little bit of animal fat throughout the week. Maybe if you still want to have days where you're vegan, be a vegan. You don't have to have animal every single day, but you do. But to say that you can never have it is just full on wrong. So what this brings me to now, okay, I think I've made it clear that like the vegan diet, it was missing things, but there are some positives, right? So the vegan diet itself, I don't necessarily have a problem with. How can you have a problem with a diet? Unless it's the carnivore diet. It's just insane. But veganism, I'm having a huge problem with. Right? Because like I said, it's the Stockholm syndrome. Now it's religion. It's religion representing a diet. Okay? Veganism is like the guys in the freaking, subway or on the corner of the street, evangelicals. That's like what veganism is. Vegans, a lot of them are just evangelical about veganism, and they want to make you believe that they're right, so much so that they want you to have their diet. And they've never met you. They don't know you. They're just like, you need to eat like this. Why? Because it's going to save the earth. And that also can be very hotly debated. That is not a closed shut case. In fact, that movie Cowspiracy, that's what actually made me go vegan. There's a lot of holes in that documentary, and you can find all those holes online, right? Regenerative farming, like I've really been kind of trying to get into this a lot more, is alive. It's a real thing. You need animals to do that. You need animals to eat the grass. You need animals to poop stuff out and build more nitrogen-rich, more, mineral-rich soil. That's another thing with the vegan diet, right? The soil is so depleted that the fruits and vegetables and all these things, they're devoid of fucking nutrients. You look at an apple today versus an apple 60 years ago. I mean, they're two completely different things, right? An apple today is probably the equivalent of like a goddamn popsicle. It's not like you're getting all of the nutrients you were from an apple 60 years ago because the soil that it grows in is just hot garbage now. Right? There's so much so that they have to, they have to build these with GMOs. They can't even manufacture fruits and vegetables naturally anymore. They can't just put a seed in the ground and hope it grows up. They have to like genetically modify the seed so that it grows to a big enough size, and that it can survive a long journey from where it's picked to the store, and it doesn't go bad the second you touch it. Okay, so, but vegans will not acknowledge that. They'll be like, no, everybody's getting cancer because of steak. Everyone's getting cancer because of eggs. Everyone's getting cancer because of fish. Everyone's getting cancer because of ground beef, because of chicken, because of turkey. And it's like, no, man, this is so much more nuance than that, what you're saying there. That it's not right. Like what you're doing is you're taking associations, they'll do these studies that vegans will cite, like proverbs from the Bible, right? And it's like, it's like the China study, and it's all these different, studies that show that, people who ate a plant-based diet got, 30% less cancer than people who didn't eat a plant-based diet. And when you actually dive into the numbers, I mean, the numbers are silly how trivial they are, and sometimes they don't take into account all these other metrics, you know what I mean? Like they do, slippery shit where it's like, they'll do like an Alzheimer's study, and they won't also mention that the people in the Alzheimer's study had the ApoE4 gene. They were just like, no, people who ate more ground beef got more Alzheimer's than those people when they didn't control for like the ApoE4 gene, or they'll be like, see, this study says that everybody can't eat ground beef, when in fact there was only a small statistical increase based on, like I was arguing online with Dr. Joel Kahn from the famous Joe Rogan debate, and he cited some study about some JAMA study about people who ate saturated fat got Alzheimer's. I don't remember how much more than people who didn't eat who ate more like polyunsaturated or monounsaturated fats. And when you actually dive into the study, it's not that people in the study, it was that black people and women got it more in this specific case, right? And it wasn't even like, it's not even a thing I would even say black people and women, you're more likely to get Alzheimer's because of the study. It was like they were doing food questionnaires, which are the fucking copper standard. What is like below bronze? What is the thing like 3 levels below bronze? Can we say like tin? It's like the tin version, the tin standard of actual legit science, where you just ask people, hey, write down all the things you ate for the last week. And dude, most people can't remember what they had for breakfast the day that they would fill that out, let alone what they had for days before they actually filled that out. So, and the reason they're quoting this stuff is because it's the religion of veganism. They have to find confirmation bias to basically say, this is why veganism's great. But yet, everyone around me who is a vegan can't do it. They couldn't do it. They did it for a little bit. They said they felt great, and then all of a sudden they didn't feel great. And it's not, I'm saying they couldn't do it because it was like, oh my God, I'm starving, I was never starving as a vegan, but I wasn't feeling optimal. I was taking a lot of naps. I didn't have as much energy. My mind was definitely not as sharp. I was for sure moodier and had insane blood sugar swings. Like I would get hangry, and if you're eating animal fat, you're not getting hangry. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's a very broad sweeping statement, but there are ways to eat a balanced whole food, animal included, plant-based diet and not be a vegan and not feel like you're going to hell. So this is my problem with veganism. It's like you look at some of these vegan YouTubers, and it's like if you have an egg, you're gonna have breast cancer the next day. You know, it's like, and you see that in the movie What the Health, where they're comparing an egg to cigarettes. And I get what they're doing. I get what they're saying. I've seen the studies. I drank the Kool-Aid. What the Health came out when I was still very much a vegan, and I was like, yeah, see, you tell him, Dr. Greger. And it's silly because when you actually look back on that, it's like, dude, are you fucking serious? Stop that, man. Stop that shit. George H.W. Bush died at 94. You know what he had for breakfast of the day that he died when he was 94? He had 3 hard-boiled eggs. Three soft-boiled eggs. Okay? And I'm just going to go on a limb and say that probably wasn't the first time that he had 3 eggs to start his day. Yet he made it to 94 years old. So what are we talking about? Are we trying to make everybody live to 100? It's not going to happen, dude. Okay? If you're a vegan, yeah, maybe you might live a while, but I'm gonna promise you're gonna be very miserable because your blood sugar's gonna be all over the goddamn place. And especially if you're one of these like high carb vegans, like the Happy Healthy Vegan on YouTube, because that's what it kind of is. That's what the movement, that's what the evangelical part of this is turning into, where it's not just you're a plant-based vegan, it's not just you're a reasonable, rational vegan, it's like you're a high-carb vegan, despite all of the evidence of blood sugar regulation problems, diabetes. And when I say blood sugar regulation problems, I'm not just talking about diabetes. I'm talking about all of these other things that are controlled through your blood sugar, your adrenal glands, your energy levels, your for women, a lot of it is your reproductive health. There's a ton of functions that go on in your body that are dependent on, what your blood sugar levels are at, and just get thrown completely out of whack in the high carb vegan diet. Never mind the fact that even as a high carb vegan, you're not eating enough fat or protein. You're just starving all the time. You're eating 5-6 times a day. You're getting IBS, but you're not blaming it on the vegan diet. You're just like, well, it's just in my blood. Everyone in my family has IBS. The vegan diet's only helping, and you're just downing all these high fiber things. Oh, never mind all the starchy food. People like Dr. McDougall are telling you to eat, whole wheat bread and eat potatoes. I mean, they're telling you to eat fucking potatoes. And I mean, there's potatoes spike your blood sugar and your insulin very high. It's a very high glycemic food. Oh no, it's not high glycemic, not compared to, it's the animal fat that makes you have the diabetes. No, dude, stop it. I promise you, nobody's eating potatoes and then not eating 2 hours later, because that shit spikes your insulin. Now, is it as bad as a candy bar? Definitely not. No. There are good sides to potatoes. Sweet potatoes can be good. I eat sweet potatoes. I'll eat a fucking potato. I'll eat French fries. I'll eat goddamn everything. Okay. But to build a whole diet on potatoes is just silly. It's just silly and uneducated. And if you want to do it, do it. But don't be a goddamn evangelical about it. And the same thing goes for the ketos. But I think the vegans, I think the vegan diet is becoming more dangerous. This idea that we shouldn't eat animal food, I don't think it's right. And the foot soldiers that are screaming from the mountaintops are really giving the actual real data a very skewed vision. So, like I said, I'm going to talk some more about this as time goes on, because the further I get away from my ex-vegan past, the more critical I can be of veganism. And there are quite a few things to be critical about. So stay tuned to more Holistic A-Hole episodes, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this one. If you enjoyed the podcast, again, please take a second, go on to your iTunes. If you listen to multiple of these podcasts and you're loving them, just go on to iTunes or Apple Podcasts, leave a quick review. It takes just a second to do. Put your thoughts. That's the only way I know what you're thinking on here, is if you put your thoughts down. If you love it, you hate it. Some people hate it. They leave some funny comments and whatever. It's fine. We all have, I don't care what you think. I do care what you think, but if you love it, I want to know that even more. So go on to iTunes, leave a review, and find me on all the social mediums, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the Holistic A-Holes Facebook page. So thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you share this with those you love, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.